Hello, one and all, and welcome back to another thrilling installment in the AI-only campaign series run by yours truly, Virinity Void. I think this is officially probably like the 11th or the 12th, but like in terms of the ones that I have been recording and uploading, this is the 10th so far. So, I'll lower down that music just a tiny little bit, and we will get to this prologue that we have before us. So this is Campaign X, or Campaign 10, Divine Fervor. And the whole notion of this campaign is that the religions used by, or picked for every submission we have here, it has their bonuses buffed in some way, or has something added on to the bonuses they already have. So Catholicism, for example, they normally get +1 tolerance of the true faith and +1 missionary strength against heathens. But with Campaign 10 Divine Fervor, that has changed to tolerance of the true faith +2, missionary strength versus heathens +2, and I also added in institution spread in true faith provinces +20%. And a lot of these were changed around or buffed in some way so that there is more variety and more power within each religion. This is the era of, when the gods touch down into the mortal realm and we feel the power of the gods themselves. So, we're going to see a lot happen throughout, and honestly, I'm very excited to see what happens. But first, we have to introduce the contestants, the submissions done by each person. So this prologue is going to be in 2 parts. There's a lot to go through, and I have it all here on my Excel sheet on my other monitor, and we will be going through the first 2 national ideas, if they have been described or localized, or the first 3 modifiers if they have not been localized. My submissions will be first, and then after that we will go through the order. For the most part, there's going to be a lot in this first part of the prologue, and then the second part of the prologue will have the rest, because I believe Mackie is the only one to get a full 7 submissions in, because he got donations. So first up, I forgot they are supposed to have let me check my file real quick. I believe they're supposed to have a Barbary Ikta. This is why we do things in the prologue, so that in the real game, when part 1 starts out, yes, Barbary Ikta. When part 1 goes, I don't have to worry about anything. And if Cravens, if you are wondering, if you're watching this part, I did the cultures. And you don't have to worry about that. I will do any renaming and all that after this. But for the most part, everyone has their set religions and all that. No need to worry. But for the first national idea, the Idrisids, my first submission, Aftermath of the Revolts. The revolt that began with Maysara al-Madgari in the 740s culminated in a serious blow to the Umayyad Caliphate. Though there were successes on both sides, the authority of the Caliphate toward the western edges was forever curtailed, and from those ashes left behind rose various polities like our own. We, as descendants of Idris ibn Abdallah, must always remember the way in which our state was formed, so as to be on guard for any other invaders that would seek to impose unjust laws and regulations on our people. Yearly army tradition decay -1%. And the second national idea is from the Prophet's own family. Unlike other Muslim states around us that can only claim to be descended from Muhammad's own family, the Idrisids know for a fact that the ancestor of Idris ibn Abdallah is in fact Ali ibn Abi Talib and his wife Fatima. daughter of the Prophet Muhammad himself. Through this family lineage, every single Idrisid ruler is indeed a Sharif, which grants a great deal of lasting prestige that other Muslims undoubtedly respect. Yearly prestige +1 and tolerance of the true faith +1. So the Idrisids are landlocked in the Morocco region, but they have a lot of company in Iberia should they reach out. But I believe that they're going to stick around over here in North Africa and just chill out and maybe make some alliances up here. I don't know. Historically, North Africa has been more so the victim of those in Iberia rather than the aggressor, but that might change this campaign, that might not change this campaign. Next submission is, let me go back over here, because I have this whole Excel sheet on my side. Next submission is the Ghurids, or Ghurids, however you want to say it. Traditions are defensiveness +20% and core creation cost -10%. The first national idea is these mountains of ours. We have been around in these mountains for generations upon generations, cultivating a lively yet humble existence throughout valleys and plains as the giants above clashed. Intricate knowledge of the terrain alongside having intimate connections with local communities through the mountains makes it so that, any enemies invading Ghurid land will get very little local aid in the form of food, water, or even directions on where to go. Attrition for enemies +1. And then the second national idea is tempered by consistent combat. The Ghaznavids were the traditional holders of our chains as they ruled our home region for generations, yet their clashes with the Seljuks and the Oghuz Turks caused a large struggle for power in the region. It is through these clashes for power that ultimately led to an opportunity for our ancestors, Ala al-Din Hussein and Saif al-Din Hussein. I messed that up. Ala al-Din Hussein and Saif al-Din Hussein to rise up and throw off the old shackles around our ankles. Now that we are free people, we must never forget these initial struggles for power and be ready for any time an invader seeks to subjugate the people of Ghur. Yearly army tradition +0.5 and recruitment time ±10%. So, really the main obstacle for the Ghurids is going to be Hunza. Whoever wins this first bout, like in a war, is probably gonna take the whole region, this general region. But there's always the opportunity that things turn around. Like we have seen big turnarounds in these campaigns before, so just we gotta wait to see what happens. The next one for me is Satavahanas. The first are the traditions of Satavahana are goods produced +10% and manpower in primary culture provinces +20%. The first national idea is origins in the ancient past. The stories we tell about how our dynasty came to be are mythical in many ways, but there are pieces of truth scattered throughout. What is most true about these foundational tales of ours is that we have been intertwined with the Brahmins of the land for generations upon generations, meaning that we are inherently tied to the main holders of authority throughout the land. It is through the Brahmins that we will garner the loyalty of all others throughout the realm. All estates loyalty equilibrium +5%. The second national idea is fighting the Kavavamsha. The Satavahana dynasty dates back to before the arrival of the Kavavamsha, yet their march into our region was unstoppable. Their grip on power, however, was undone completely by the once great Simuka, leading to where we are today. It is not enough for us to let the memories of the Kavavamsha fade into obscurity. Instead, we should study how they came to power and how our region was conquered in the past. from those previous eras of subjugation, lessons can be extracted so that a stronger state for the Satavahana dynasty can be built up. Infantry cost minus 10%, core creation cost minus 10%. Satavahana is landlocked in the Deccan, and it's going to be a long while before they really reach any of their neighbors. They might make alliances with like Trankabar or Kolathunad or Dundar, but reaching any enemies to actually take land is going to take a very long time, I do believe. So they're kind of a slow burner. Next one for me is the Dabuids. The Dabuids are descendants of the Sassanids, and their traditions are attrition for enemies +1 and morale damage received minus 10%. The first national idea is vulnerable foundations. Gil-Givbara had signed a treaty of peace with the Arab invaders alongside the House of Ispabudan and Karen. Yet it was the son of Gil-Givbara that would help solidify our presence within the former royal province of Padishquagar. The foundations laid out and built up by Gil-Givbara and Dabuya must be secured by any means necessary, which includes selecting exactly who serves in official positions throughout our land. If there is any semblance of Islamic sympathy in our officials, we risk losing our entire realm. Foreign spy defense plus 30%, tolerance of heathens minus 2. The torch of the House of Sasan is their second national idea. The flames across Iran are being snuffed out by invading Arab armies, and it is only the stalwart holdouts like us that dare keep the fires burning. The torch of the House of Sasan may have died out, but the embers passed on to its cadet branches have the potential to renew the great flame that once illuminated the entire world. What stands in our way, however, are not only Arab invaders, but also disloyal cadet branches that would seek to do the will of our would-be conquerors. It is time to put our brothers and sisters in their rightful place, that being subservient to the rightful heir to the House of Sasan. Missionary strength versus heretics, plus 1%, and nobility influence, minus 10%. So the Dabuids are kind of in a contentious spot. They have Armenia in the distance, my own submission, the Ghurids in the distance, and Hunza later on. They probably will find an early ally in Isfahan, because they are also Zoroastrian, but we'll see. Rivalries can easily take place and alliances shift around. So the Dabuids, they have a nice spot on the Caspian coast, but things could always turn out to be very treacherous indeed. The last submission for me, I'm going to take a sip of my water, is the Rocky Mountain Rangers. This is completely fictional. I had this idea before. I wanted to try it out finally, so, let's see. So the Rocky Mountain Rangers, their traditions are fort maintenance minus 20% and attrition for enemies plus 1. And their first national idea is Ranger Retreats. While it is not easy living in the Rocky Mountains, these retreats are defensive havens for every single person that pledges loyalty to the Rangers. The growing tunnel networks and overland paths that scale across the snowy and forested mountains offer plenty of space to get troops to and from various garrison points, meaning that should we ever need more defenders at a singular fortification, we can easily get them there without issue. National garrison growth plus 25% and garrison size plus 25%. The second national idea is to each their own. We are fond of leaving our various ranger communities to their own devices most of the time. Periodic message and couriers going back and forth to keep communication in place alongside following the general guidelines of the oath are all part of our wider state, but enforcing a centralized system like that of an absolute monarch? or a divine theocrat? Impossible, we say. Any such ambition for power are very easily put to rest in these noble mountains that we defend to the very last man or woman. Fort defense plus 15% and maximum absolutism minus 50%. So, though the Rocky Mountain ranges are very isolated, they're going to have, should any provinces go revolutionary, my design was that they would not have to deal with that much unrest from the revolution, because they are a republic, and they also have national idea that greatly reduces their maximum absolutism. So those are my submissions: the Rocky Mountain Rangers, Gurids, Dabuids, Satavahana, and the Idrisids. We'll see what happens to them. The next person on our list who made a bunch of submissions is Mackie. His first submission, I believe, is from his mod Beyond the Himalayas. I believe that's what it's called. It is called Powo. And if I butcher names, if I butcher pronunciations, I'm sorry, but there are some things that I just cannot pronounce, unfortunately. Anyways, Powo has in their traditions attrition for enemies +1 and defensiveness +20%. The first national idea is descendants of Yarlung. Our current ruling dynasties descend from the ancient Yarlung dynasty, even older than the Tibetan Empire itself. This ancient origin gives us legitimacy, and of course this gives yearly legitimacy +1. The second national idea is savages of Powo. The area around Nyingchi holds host to the kingdom of Powo, whose inhabitants had a reputation as fearsome savages, which meant most travelers kept clear of it, and as such was one of the least known areas in the Tibetan traditional feudal establishment. Its isolation was also enhanced by the belief by a great number of Tibetans that in its borders was one of the hidden lands, quote-unquote, or Beyul, referred to in the prophecies of Guru Rinpoche. Such a land remains secluded and off-limits for a reason. Shock damage +10%. So, Nyingchi is going to have to deal with another one of Mackie's submissions, which we will get to in due time, Yongning, but his next one on my list is Hunza, the nearby rival to the Gurids. Hunza has the traditions of +10% infantry combat ability and +25% looting speed. That's not loot amount in the provinces. There's the amount of loot in the provinces stays the same. It's just taking that loot month by month is faster. So the first national idea of Hunza is Legacy of Iskandar. Our kings descend from Iskandar Azimo, the greatest conqueror in the history of mankind. Land leader shock +1. And the second national idea is Baltit Fort. In the past, the survival of the feudal regime of Hunza was ensured by the impressive fort which overlooks Karimabad. The foundation of the fort dates back to 700 years ago, with rebuilds and alterations over the centuries. Fort defense +10%, fort maintenance on border with rivals -20%. So Hunza's got some military stuff ready to go, just like the Gurids do. It is sure to be a clash of the titans early on. We'll see. I'm also not revealing the development map mode in these prologues because that's going to be a surprise for the first part. The next one I have on my list for Mackie is the Evenk Dower Federation, right up here. This is a big old tag. So the Evenk Dower Federation, not Confederation, it is a federation, is their traditions are cavalry cost -10% and max promoted cultures +2. Their first national idea is, oh boy, we got some defunct localization. I thought these were fine. Well, I will do the second and the fourth since these are good. But I'll ask Mackie for the first and the third national ideas. The first national idea gives national manpower plus 20%. The second national idea is Solon cavalry. Unlike most of the Evenki, the Solon are famed horsemen. This is because they have assimilated into the pastoral ways of the steppe, adopting this form of the neighboring Mongolic peoples. Cavalry combat ability plus 15%. And the third national idea gives fort defense plus 10%. The third national idea. And then the fourth national idea says alliance with the tribes. However strong our ruler may be, the clans and tribes still hold most real power in the land. We must always make sure that these tribes are loyal to us. Reinforced speed plus 10%, and nobles loyalty equilibrium plus 10%, and tribes loyalty equilibrium plus 10%. And yeah, we'll get that localization sorted out in due time. The next submission from Mackie is Ket, the fucking tag that I had quite a few problems with because the tag letters K-E-T were used last campaign, and it was a whole big thing that it was on me because I did not replace those tag letters. I did not omit them. But Ket is here, and their traditions are land attrition minus 10% and tolerance of the true faith plus 1. The first national idea is sacred dolls. Our dolls are an important part of our people's religion, as these household deities sleep in the day to protect us at night. This protection would greatly aid our warriors. Shock damage received minus 10%. And then, second national idea for Ket is self-sufficiency. We make most of their equipment, including knives, axes, arrows, fish hooks, and shamanistic ornaments of iron, copper, and tin. Though through shaping, joining, and gluing, we make vessels, skis, and a variety of containers, especially of birch bark. We use nettle twine for small fish nets. We sew our own clothes and build our own houses. We are not reliant on trade with the outside world. Production efficiency plus 10%. So Ket, much like Satavahana, they're kind of isolated, and it's going to be a while before they really neighbor anyone, but they are close enough to Ihiri and the Evenk Dower Federation that Ket might lend some aid over here. Or they might go and help out the Orenburg Cossacks. We don't know. So we gotta wait and see. Anyways, that is Ket out of the way. Let's go to Powo's rival, Yongning. The bright pink in Asia. Well, technically Ket is on the Asian continent. They're bright pink, but you know. The traditions of Yongning are spy offense plus 20% and tolerance of heathens plus 2. The first national idea is Nuer Guo. The lands of the Mosuo have often been called Nuer Guo, or the country of women, as known by the Tang dynasty, with such a name stemming from the matriarchal traditions of our people, who revere and respect the authority of women. Women in our culture have freedoms not present in other cultures, while also typically holding the domestic position of Ahmi, or matriarch, where they wield considerable authority over their respective families. Stability cost modifier minus 10%, female advisor chance plus 50%. The second national idea of Yongning is Tisese. Mosul culture is infamous for its lack of marital institutions, which has given rise to our nation being branded a land of free love. In spite of this, however, couples are free to be together in our culture so long as their love persists in a familial and reproductive institution known as tisese, or walking marriage, where mutual affection and freedom of the individuals supersedes all else. Chance of a new heir plus 50%. And Yongning's religion is Vajrayana, so they are gonna duke it out with the other Vajrayana, or maybe they will ally Powo, because these two are the only Vajrayana ones around. We will see. The next one from Mackie is Koryak, and I tried to sort out the color Mackie. I'm sorry, but for some reason it's gonna stick to green. The save file did not take, and Koryak is remaining green, unfortunately. Sorry, I tried to change it around, but Koryak's traditions are yearly army tradition plus 0.5 and possible advisors plus 1. The first national idea is Chaochu. The inland Koryak rode reindeer to get around, cutting off their antlers to prevent injuries. They also fitted a team of reindeer with harnesses and attached them to sleds to transport goods and people when moving camp. Movement speed plus 15%. These are going to be some quick skiers. The second national idea is no fear of death. While other Siberians flee with the mere sight of a gun, we stay stubborn and retaliate with counterfire, as our entire lives have been struggles for survival. Discipline plus 5%. So these Siberians are not going to be any joke whatsoever. My only question is, because they are totemist, are they going to be able to get any allies? I'm not sure about it, but we'll see. Because they're going, anyone who invades Koryak is going to be, they're going to be spending a lot of manpower up here. This is glacial. This is brutal stuff to go to. The last submission from Mackie is the United States of Albania, the counterweight to America V3. The traditions of the United States of Albania is attrition for enemies plus 1 and goods produced plus 10%. The first national idea is restore Greater Albania. You know what Kosovo, Chameria, Macedonia, Lugina, Prashevs, West Macedonia, and South Montenegro are rightfully Albanian land? Oh, you know that, the Kosovo and all that. They're all rightful Albanian land. I didn't know that before, but now I do know. Okay. National manpower modifier plus 10, core creation cost minus 15%. The second national idea is the new UCK. To liberate New Kosovo from the Golumbosevic Serbs, the Albanian people must rise against their oppressors, showing the strength of our people. National manpower modifier plus 15%. Oh dear God, I cannot wait for the clash between America and the United States of Albania. It is gonna be some fun times. So that is those are all of Mackie's submissions. I am very excited to see how they do, especially Po Wo and it's called Yongning. I keep, and for some reason in my head, I keep thinking it's Yongping, but it's Yongning with an N. Anyways, with that out of the way, let us move on to Viri's submissions. So Viri submitted first. How do I say this? Because he did some funky pronunciation or spellings, but this is German, so I'm not particularly versed in pronouncing German. This is Erstift Bremen. The traditions are domestic trade power plus 20% and yearly devotion plus 0.5. The first national idea is Legacy of the Nordic Missions. The founding of the diocese started with Willehad, and the new combined see proved to be the headquarters for missionaries venturing to Scandinavia. This missionary legacy still persists in the modern archbishopric. Missionary strength plus 1.5%. The second national idea is between archbishop and city. Despite being de jure part of our domain, the free city of Bremen remains de facto independent from us. But despite this, the city still participates in the diets of the Prince Archbishopric, being the major taxpayer. National tax modifier plus 10%. We're going to see a lot of action from Bremen, I predict. The test run showed that they were not passive, but they were able to get along with trade stuff around this region, the straits. But that was back when Mecklenburg was still here. I took Mecklenburg out because of this submission right here, and I replaced Mecklenburg with Denmark. We're gonna see how that goes. The next submission from Viri is Kölnstadt. So Kölnstadt, the traditions are that they cannot build over their force limit, and they have trade efficiency plus 15%. The first national idea is Legacy of Worringen. Our struggle for freedom from the Archbishopric ended in 1288 with the Battle of Worringen, where our citizens defeated Archbishop Siegfried von Westenberg. From then on, the city no longer belonged to the Archbishop, and they can only enter for ceremonies. Own territory dice roll plus 1. And the second national idea is Prosperous City. In the High Middle Ages, Cologne became the largest city in the German-speaking region with around 40,000 inhabitants. As our prosperity only grows, we should expect this population to only grow into denser regions within the city. Development cost modifier, minus 5%. So, this little city right here that cannot build over its force limit is going to see it. I have a good feeling about Kölnstadt, that they're going to do very well. Part of my good feelings about Kölnstadt is because they are right next to the Low Countries. I'll take a sip of my water and then we will go on. Because, this much talking. These prologues are about an hour each. So, there's a lot to go through. A lot of talking. It can get tiring. The next submissions from Viri are from his world building. So this first one here is called Voneneria. Voneneria has recruitment time minus 10%, and all the state's influence modifier plus 10%. Excuse me. The first national idea is the Hadech. A Hadek in Vonenerian culture was a meeting of every free man in a village to discuss local matters of any sort. This has given our people a strong sense of community and belonging, and as such a grand Hadek will be established for the new government. Cost of advisors with ruler's culture minus 20%. The second national idea is Legend of the Nine Sons. According to legends, the Buneri people were descended from the figure Abunir, a renowned warrior and poet, who birthed 9 capable and strong sons, each of them birthing one of the 9 tribes that make up us and the Hebers. Nobility, loyalty, equilibrium plus 20%. So, Voneneria they're in a prime position, especially with this strait right here, but they're going to have early, and I mean like right off the bat, early contention in the 1440s and 1450s with this little guy right here, Enu Sulafka. Enu Sulafka in the traditions has galley combat ability plus 10%, and they may raid coasts, including coasts of countries that have the same religion. Their first national idea is to become an Aijanwa. The Enusulafs, living on a rocky and unwelcoming peninsula on the southern edge of Iwaria, have long been one with the sea. This, compounded with a highly belligerent ethos, means that the greatest honor for an Enusulaf is to steal a ship and all its treasure. Privateer efficiency plus 15%. The second national idea is Thurzana at the helm. Although many great seamen emerged from the Enusulafs, only one woman managed to be feared even among her ethnic brethren, and this is Thurzana. When her black and blue banner waves, everyone from foreigners to Enusulafs flee in sheer terror. Morale damage plus 15%. It should be noted too that privateer efficiency is not useless on the AI. I do recall that the AI does do privateering quite a bit if they have a powerful enough navy. So, we shall see who wins in this duo locking horns. Lower down the music just a little bit. The second to last one from Viri is called Hochstift, I think I got that right, Brandenburg. Okay, so Hochstift Brandenburg in traditions has tolerance of heathens plus 2 and fort defense plus 15%. The first national idea is Legacy of Exile. In 983, the Slavs had an uprising that forced us out of Brandenburg itself. Despite this, bishops were still appointed, despite having only nominal rights over their former diocese. Excuse me. Morale damage received plus 15 or minus 15%. The second national idea is Imperial Immediacy. Despite being overshadowed by the electorate with the same name, being based in the same city, we have no liege but the Emperor, entitling us to participate in imperial diets. This status was kept long after the electors have garnered much influence on us. Diplomatic reputation plus 1. So, Hochstift Brandenburg is going to have a... I'm very curious what they're gonna do, because they're probably gonna reach for the coast, and like right here at Stettin, it's pretty good, and Uckermark is a good province. So I really think Brandenburg is going to go to the coast and then start fighting Denmark and Bremen and maybe even Livonia for Baltic trade control. And who knows, maybe even Sapmi or Norway gets involved. So we'll see. The last submission from Viri is Average Land. Average Land, oh average land, with King Median, Queen Mode, and the heir Mean. You got your mean, your median, and your mode. Anyways, the first national idea the traditions of Average Land are production efficiency plus 15% and global trade power plus 15%. The first national idea is morale of armies plus 20%. The second national idea is national tax modifier plus 15%. And the third national idea is stability costs minus 15%. It is a very... the national ideas, I would say, are slightly above average, but for the most part, it's gray in color. It has King Median with heir Mean. The dynasty is average generic, and the flag has the most common colors of flag colors from around the world: blue, red, and white. So this is a very average submission. Whether or not they're going to perform in an average sense, we'll see. Oh man, I really should do these in like bursts or whatever. It's like, I want to trudge through this, get part 1 of the prologue done, and then just... goodness. I'm going to take a sip of my water before I do Akamatsu's submissions next. I think I'm probably going to get through... Shit, there's a lot. I don't know, this part might run long. This part might indeed run long, we'll see. Anyways, the first submission from Akamatsu is Akechi. So the traditions of Akechi are manpower recovery speed plus 10% and spine network construction plus 15%. And then the first national idea is Hono-ji no Hen. The enemy is at Hono-ji. Opinion of same culture minus 75. Opinion of same culture group minus 75. Morale damage plus 15%. The second national idea is Descendants of the Toki. Our clan was born of the Toki clan, the traditional Shugo of Mino province. It is from this bloodline where we inherited our power and the samurai status from, and samurai status from. And as they have declined, it is our task to reforge the power of the Toki clan. Prestige decay minus 1%. I'm guessing because they are descended from the Toki clan, that is why their Mon is essentially the same as the Toki clan. But, yeah, Akechi is not going to be... in the test run, Akechi is usually the one that gets jumped first, so... I don't know. We'll see. The Shogun, I don't believe, is going to have a good time. Shogun Mitsuhide Akechi. The second submission from, from Akamatsu is Toyotomi. Toyotomi has plus 25% land force limit modifier and diplomatic reputation plus 1 as the traditions. And the first national idea is Bichu Okaishi. As the news of the death of Nobunaga spreads, we must not get tied down with conflict in the West, unable to take action in affairs back home. If we march to Kinai via the Chugoku Road swiftly enough, the enemy shall not see us coming, and victory will be ensured. Movement speed plus 20%. Rising the ranks. Starting from a humble Ashigaru foot soldier, Kinoshita Hideyoshi through acts of bravery, good leadership, and charisma, rose through the military ranks to become one of Nobunaga's most esteemed generals, despite not being born a noble. Infantry combat ability plus 12.5%, and army tradition from battles plus 10%. Toyotomi seems to be very powerful, and it seems like, just from the visual look, they seem to have a lot of development, so maybe Toyotomi comes out on top against Akechi. Or maybe Akechi is able to get an early alliance and they do well. Who knows? The test run can only indicate to us so many things. And plus, we have a new contender here we'll get to later on. The third submission from Akamatsu is Shibata. Shibata, let's see. Shibata has, in the traditions, cavalry combat ability plus 10% and yearly prestige plus 1. The first national idea is maintain the balance of power. The Kiyosu Conference has resulted in the diminishing of our power among the Oda vassals, with the Toyotomi rising to strength instead. To maintain the old order in which we thrived, we must contest any who may try to rise above us. Discipline plus 2.5%, and aggressive expansion minus 10%. The second national idea is Oda's Pardon. Although we initially opposed Nobunaga's ascension to the head of the Oda clan, instead favoring Oda Nobukatsu, this did not make a permanent enemy. As Nobukatsu begins to favor the newcomers over us, we should plot a way to pledge allegiances to the inevitable victor. Improve relations plus 15%. With that, That is Shibata. The next submission is Takigawa. The traditions of Takigawa are land fire damage plus 10% and blockade impact on siege plus 1. The first national idea is Battle of Kanagawa. Luck is in the hands of the heavens, and life is in the hands of the enemy. Charge into the enemy and die in battle. Morale of armies plus 10% and shock damage plus 10%. The second national idea is Envoy of the Oda. Takigawa Kazumasu served as an envoy under the Oda clan, playing a crucial role in deals such as the Kiyosu alliance. Diplomats plus 1. I have a feeling that that extra diplomat is going to be very crucial later on, as the Thunderdome in Japan starts to take off, you know. And now we have the slot machine from Akamatsu. Excuse me. The slot machine that is 348821514. The traditions of this precarious slot machine right here is stability cost modifier minus 10% and leaders without upkeep plus 1. The first national idea gives domestic trade power plus 20%. The second national idea gives diplomats plus 1. Oh, I bit my tongue. Shit. Gives diplomats plus 1. The third national idea gives construction cost minus 25%. So, despite this slot machine seeming to be having some awkward stuff about it, the national ideas, at least the early ones, seem to be pretty beneficial. Stability is cheaper. The leaders without upkeep is kind of but I mean, domestic trade power is nice, and so is construction cost. And their religion is going to give them some nice bonus to their colonization. And should they get to the coast, they'll have cheaper ships. So, we'll see. Jesus Christ, that music is loud. What the hell? Because I'm not wearing my headset right now, but I can still hear it, and I can see the audio peaks on Streamlabs right now. So it's just like, I don't want it to be too loud, but I also don't want it to be too low. Oh well. So those are all the submissions of Akamatsu. The next one, our next participant, is Kosovo Serbia, or I think he just goes by Q96 something. Anyways, he has quite a few submissions. He has 5 in total. First one is Guanseo. So, Guanseo, let's take a look. The traditions of Guanseo are production efficiency plus 20% and tolerance of the true faith plus 3. The first national idea is regulated gold in Rangrim. The northern part of Korea is highly mountainous, and thus mineral extraction makes up a significant part of our economy. However, to ensure the sanctity of our currency, production rates are often lowered to stave off inflation. Reduce inflation costs minus 15%. Second national idea is righteous army. Wherever our provincial army is insufficient, we can always rely on the righteous armies as civilians rise up in militias to hamper enemy efforts into our land. Attrition for enemies plus 1.5. So, taking some of these provinces is going to be quite difficult, as attrition is going to eat away at enemy forces coming through. Pyongyang is grassland, so that's easy, but Hamhil and what's it called? Gangyi, I don't know how to pronounce that. Those are both mountainous, so the additional attrition is going to be very welcome. The next submission from Q96 is Anatolikon. You know, it's kind of interesting. We haven't really had any serious Byzantium-esque submissions in a while. This is the first one in quite a long time, I do believe. So, and it's not even done by someone that's Greek on top of that. So, Anatolikon has in the traditions cavalry combat ability plus 10% and monthly administrative power plus 1. The first national idea is learning from history. Old Byzantium fell due to its incessant internal bickering, from different claimants fighting over the shrinking empire to corruption and embezzlement being commonplace in the government. To restore the empire, corruption must be lessened at all levels. Yearly corruption minus 10. Minus 0.10. The second national idea is Anatolian Orthodoxy. Ever since the decline of Byzantium, the heathens have spread all around Anatolia, leaving us as one of the few remnants of Orthodox Christianity in Anatolia's interior. The faith shall be guarded at all costs as we stick to our Byzantine roots. Tolerance of the true faith plus 2. So, we're going to see just how well they do in terms of their neighbors. They do have some other Orthodox neighbors, and in fact in the test run, Anatolikon got a personal union over Theodoro and integrated Theodoro, so Anatolikon was very powerful, but they are not impervious to their neighbors possibly ganging up on them. Who knows? We shall see. Plus, Morea is also another option for an ally. I don't know. We'll see what Anatolikon does. The next submission from Q96 is the Orenburg Cossacks. The traditions of the Orenburg Cossacks are is looting speed plus 20% and movement speed plus 10%. Excuse me. The first national idea is old ritualists. As devout Orthodox Christians, why should we listen to whatever some archbishop out west says? We shall cling on to the rites and structures practiced here by the people, as our people are unwilling to obey any outside oppressive forces. Tolerance of the true faith plus 3. Second national idea is Shashkas in Han. Originating from the Caucasus, the shashka rapidly grew in popularity among the Cossacks, with most of them adopting this weapon. Its subtle curve makes it good at both cutting and slashing, making it superior to our old sabers. Shock damage plus 15%. So I do believe it's going to be a while before the Orenburg Cossacks really reach anyone, but when they do, I don't know, they might do very well. They don't have a tribal government. They have the Sikrada. So cavalry costs goes down and cavalry combat ability goes up. These guys are going to be hitting hard with shock damage. Also, do they have a gold mine at Bashkiria? No, they're not at Bashkiria. Right? Well, they do. They do have a gold mine. This could be really big. If they develop that into the sky, the Orenburg Cossacks might be a contender to look out for. The next submission here is Akanland, kind of replacing the Ashanti. And it's rare, kind of rare we get one in sub-Saharan Africa, but, I'm glad that we have one. The first national ID, or the traditions of Akanland, are infantry combat ability plus 15%, and manpower in primary culture provinces plus 37.5%. The first national idea is the Golden Stool. Also known as the Sikadwa Kofi, the Golden Stool is the throne of kings and thus the main symbol of power in Akan culture, housing the spirit of the nation, living, dead, and yet to be born. Stability cost modifier minus 15%. The next national idea is coastal fortresses. The foreigners hold many fortresses along our coastline, where they conduct trade with our people. As we export slaves and gold, period. If we can get the fortresses themselves to be owned by us while keeping the merchants, we can defend our coastline effectively. Fort maintenance minus 15%. And their religion, because the West Africa has quite a few religions, It gives them trade efficiency plus 20% and production efficiency plus 20%. So they're going to be very well off in terms of money. The next submission here is America. The time-old America. Cannot believe they're back again. Oh, dear Lord. Do I have to read these? Oh, I gotta read these. Alright. Traditions of America. This fucking insane Twitter account. Settler chance plus 10 and global settler increase plus 10. So they're going to be colonizing pretty fast. With Shia, they will have Shia as their religion. They will have quite a bit of fighting power behind them. The first national idea, the first tweet basically, is Serbians are the true Egyptians. Shiptars are trying to steal our history again. Deretic already prove Egypt is Serbian, but Shiptars who have nothing to do with history are trying to steal from us. Please share to raise knowledge. Institutions spread plus 20%. The second national idea is Galileovic. Famous Serbian scientist Galileo Galileovic discovered many things which were kept hidden by Vatican Jesuits, and he was punished for it. He discovered the sun was the center of the universe, for example. This is proof of Vatican persecution of Serbs. Technology cost minus 10%. Oh dear God. I'm hoping that I don't have to read the rest of these. I really am hoping not, but knowing my luck, I'm gonna have to. From this insane man's fucking Twitter account. And it all started from that one fucking tweet where he said, fucking Christopher Columbus was actually Serbian. It's actually Christopher Kolumbosevic. Like, come on. How disconnected from reality do you have to be? Anyways. The next ones are from, I'm probably gonna do I'll do Pimentas and Sakans next because they only have 4 submissions between the two of them. So Pimenta's first submission is Sangvis Ferry. I'm not sure what the reference for this is, but you know, sure. The traditions of Sangvis are technology cost minus 10% and innovativeness gain plus 25%. The first national idea is rebellion against humanity. Sangvis Ferry used to be an arms manufacturer which produced AI known as tactical dolls, but now have killed all humans and taken over after Elissa, the main AI, went rogue. War taxes cost minus 100%. Second national idea is better armored robots. The armor of many of our units have received an upgrade. Shock damage minus 15%. Okay, sure. And Sangvis Ferry is also Rodnovri, so their military is cheaper on the whole. So they're going to be quite powerful early on, I have to say. Anatolikon better watch out. These robots are not going to be messing around. The second submission from Pimenta is Sulaset. I don't know what this is about, but they're aliens or something. I don't fucking know. Anyways, Sulaset has as their traditions discipline plus 5% and innovativeness gain plus 50%. The first national idea is starting anew. Our old planet Sulaset was destroyed in a great cosmic calamity. We managed to escape the planet before its demise and have found ourselves in this new planet and have to build our civilization again. Development cost modifier minus 15%. Second national idea is explore this new planet. It is time we start to explore and familiarize ourselves with this new planet, and hopefully find more of our kin who almost certainly found this planet too. Colonial range plus 30%. So, yeah. Apparently aliens, or Finnish aliens. I don't know. Maybe this is a reference to something. Maybe it's not. If you know, tell me, please. I don't know. Alright, let me take a sip of my water and we will do seconds. Alright. So Sekan submitted Averton. And Averton has as their traditions global trade power plus 15% and harsh treatment cost minus 30%. Their first national idea is deportation of pretenders. Those who claim to be the Lord of Averton shall not be dealt with death. As they are our kin, let us instead deport them to foreign shores where they can make their own life and kingdoms, like what we did to Sven. Excuse me. Settler chance plus 15%. Second national idea is the True Lords. The House of Alderson, founders of Averton, have reigned over this land in some form or for nearly 2 millennia. The Aldersons are the rightful lords of Averton, and they shall continue on, or shall continue to be so in the future. Yearly legitimacy plus 1.50. I have a feeling that Averton is going to have early wars with Cornwall and the Isles, but whether or not Averton wins those wars, I'm curious about. Also, I forgot to do this for Cornwall. Prestige 100, because they're supposed to have standard prestige, a standard amount of prestige at the start, but not minus 95. I just now noticed that. The last submission for Sekan is Svendale. So, their traditions of Svendale are infantry combat ability plus 15% and global settler increase plus 15. The first national idea is a millennium of peace. As the city was founded, no threat to Svendale appeared. As the sea and mountains had it surrounded, it has remained undisturbed for 1,000 years. Global prosperity growth plus 0.15. The second national idea is Svendale's splendid scenery. The land is known for its charm, especially the mountains, as they are hit by the coast. All this beauty at the reach of an arm. That is the thing that Sven adores most. Yearly prestige plus 1. So, Svendale has the capability to expand fast at first, but I'm curious how they're gonna fare when they meet Otolibi, Three Council, or the Three Fires Confederacy, United States of Albania, etc. Because there's only coastline up here. There is not inland stuff. This is all wasteland. So it's kind of a narrow passage, but I don't know. Maybe Svendale comes out on top. We shall see. But I think I'm going to conclude part 1 of the prologue there. And yeah, and the next part we will start with the Cyan Menace, his submissions, and we will go from there. That's about it for now. Do I have anything else? No. I don't think I do. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you all in the second part of the prologue.